New computer architecture with a capital A. I spent the week with nerds, and it felt just like home. 30 years ago, I took my first architecture studio at MIT. In those days, we built models with our hands in a woodshop. My first model was a small angular space filled with columns, so close that miniature humans could barely navigate the space. My critic, this is what we called professors, didn't like it very much, but looking back, it perfectly characterizes how I've attempted to understand the world, through the balance of structure and space. In 1994, when I was a student at the School of Architecture and Planning at MIT, it was located in Building 7, one of the original classically designed buildings by William Wells Bosworth. I would enter Building 10 off Mass Ave and walk along the infinite corridor to get to my studio, passing through Buildings 3, 4, and 8. And as I would catch glimpses outside of the quad, it would be barren. This snaking 820-foot-long hallway through history was the cultural and social hub of the campus. You would have thought that the critic would have understood that my project wasn't about the columns. It was about the latent space that the humans would fill in. Architecture is all about the balance of structure and space. Too much structure, you kill space. Too much space, you kill culture. Culture is cultivated by obstacles. In my current research on the balance of rules and chaos, it turns out that human creativity thrives on aligning the right structure with the right mindset to solve the right problems. Which brings me back to computers and architecture. The Imagination in Action Conference was hosted at MIT's Media Lab, an interdisciplinary research institute combining technology, multimedia, sciences, art, and design. It was founded in 1985 and is actually part of the School of Architecture and Planning. But in 1994, I had no idea it existed. If I had, I would certainly have changed majors. And now at 50, I'm contemplating returning for a PhD in creativity science. I think that would be a fun way to spend a decade. I spent the first hour of the conference listening to talks by current PhD students. It was 8 a.m., and the headliners, Stephen Wolfram, Jan LeCun, and Lex Friedman, weren't on till the afternoon. So I decided to start by hearing the research that's being done by some of today's most brilliant, youngish minds. I've shared some of these through a series of human AI portraits. Hope Schroeder, Nikhil Singh, Kushagra Tiwari were three standouts. Everyone was talking about the need for new architectures for generative AI. For the majority of the population, we are barely a fortnight, thank you, Taylor, into the current architecture of large language models. And it's already quite obvious that despite the unbelievable work these predictive language models can do, this is not a structure that is likely to be sustainable. These models are gas guzzlers. They're not adaptable. Language models don't do math, period, end of sentence. They're not actionable. They talk, but they don't do. So while the big tech companies are playing one-upsmanship games, the academics and the little tech guys wearing big brimmed cowboy hats, they're thinking about architecture. And so is this small town girl. Now, I'm a turtle on most things, so I surround myself by hares. And my rabbit friend Mark Foggin saw Hamilton at the Public Theater and told me I had to see it. So I got opening week tickets on Broadway on my birthday. Thank you, Mark. So when my new speedster friend Eric Fraser said I needed to try out Groq, and when I say Groq, I mean not Grok by the brilliantly disturbed Elon Musk, but Groq with a Q, the on-device open source LLM interface, I knew this was an AI Hamilton moment. The IIA conference was one of the most poorly organized conferences I have ever attended, which is how I knew it would be awesome. Men have this way of smoke signaling their way through networking that both amazes and befuddles me. Beauty is always discovered in the chaos. And there was no conference app or organized way other than a single-page PDF file that you could barely read with the photos of people sorted like a taxonomy of species. I could tell from the images of tigers and lions and bears that they were arriving at 1500 hours. So like a dog in heat, I found my way through the crowd, structure, to the second row seat, space, to take on the spectacle. I peed on my territory with a large fake Prada bag that I picked up on Canal Street, while my physical body removed itself to go to the women's room and to charge my phone. Thanks, Chris McKay. I had my MacBook Pro and a copy of my book Temperature, Creativity in the Age of AI in the bag. I figured if someone stole the bag, at least they'd read my book. The hype man of the event, John Werner. Ladies, think of him like the Aaron Gallagher of AI who wears a tie. Yeah, no, that's a terrible analogy. Scrap that. Anyhow, John was hosting like Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars, bringing on stage one superstar after another with some off-color jokes interspersed with his genuine, tender heart Care Bear lovableness. On the latter, in true rock concert spirit, as the headliners were coming on the stage, he saved room on the floor for all the students to filter in and have a front row seat. Seeing two preteen girls sitting at the foot of the stage listening to Stephen Wolfram talk about math and the power of narrative broke this feminist cold, hard heart. Computing, yes, computing. I promise we're getting there. So, now we come to our opening act, in which, in my humble opinion, is always the most interesting part of the show, right? I mean, picking the opening act is a big signal. It has to be someone good enough that the headliner admires for their work, but not big enough to overshadow their glory. An up-and-comer, an indie star, a Reddit sensation, a TikTok phenom, a nobody until they're everybody's hero. Wait for it, wait for it. Yeah, you guessed it, Groq. But not the CEO of Groq, the CTO of Groq, Dinesh Maheshwari, who walks on the stage like the Marlboro Man, and damn, he stole the fucking show. Now, to put this in context, let me just remind you of where we are at this time, because many of you will read this or listen to it asynchronously. Just a mere 30 days ago, the Bengal tiger of computing, NVIDIA, held their annual conference announcing the biggest computing chip Blackwell at the tune of $10 billion apiece. This shift towards massive computational resources is expected to transform industries, from healthcare with its complex diagnostic algorithms to autonomous vehicles that require real-time processing at unprecedented scales. We are currently living in a world where bigger equals better. More compute is more power, more data, and more capability. It's also more electricity, a hell of a lot more. GPUs, for those unfamiliar with the acronym, these are graphics processing units. They are big-ass computers with multiple cores designed to process vast amounts of data. They were designed to run video games, and they are now running the biggest large language models on the planet. But the big question has been, do we really need the same amount of compute to ask who was the president of the United States in 1994 as we do to understand the complexities of global climate change? Probably not. As I said before, creativity is all about alignment of the right structure with the right mindset to solve the right problems. In computing, that means having the right architecture, the right model to solve the right problems. And it makes no sense to run a language query with a rocket engine. That's the problem Groq is out to solve. And they're doing it in the most elegant way possible, with an architecture so simple it can be explained to a 5-year-old. Groq is like the Henry Ford of AI. Rather than assembling the entire car all at once, it's done on a line, processing piece by piece. The outcome is what we call low latency, or what can more technically be called wickedly fast. And because it's so fast, it doesn't need to happen on a big server farm. It can happen on device. So let me say this a different way. NVIDIA is Taylor Swift. Groq is Lana Del Rey, who she brought up on stage with her to celebrate her Grammy win. And if you listen to Fortnite, it's all LDR sound in Taylor's wrapper. So, why does this matter to you? Because we are moving now into a world of the craft beers of AI. If you fancy yourself someone who's a purveyor of taste, who doesn't just follow the masses and who can spot a needle in a haystack, you're someone who's going to want to pay attention to Groq and the future of LPUs. As an architect, I find this fascinating. From a user perspective, ChatGPT is still the all-utility player whose performance is unmatched with regard to its multimodal mixture of experts approach to natural language prompted computing. This is like the multi-purpose room that in the 1990s was all the rage because it was a big, wide, open space where people could do anything. But remember when I said that too much space kills culture? Lack of specificity in space, misfit of the architecture to the task at hand, can not only be ecologically wasteful, it can mean that the kinds of stuff that happens there, it gets watered down and boring. Banal. This is why I find Groq worthy of our attention. The right architecture plus the right model to solve the right problem equals efficiency, and efficiency equals sustainability. P.S. Like Taylor, within 12 hours, they released a bonus side. You can try out Groq on your phone, where you can run Meta's latest open source model, Llama 3 70B 4096. Remember Building 7? Yeah, engineers, they like numbers. It will hallucinate, but that's more to do with Llama 3 than it has to do with Groq. And if you want to read more about large language model hallucinations, I recommend Gary Marcus's Human versus Machines, the Hallucination Edition. I'm Lori Mazor, and I teach AI with a human touch. I'm reinventing how we educate, strategize, and build the future, one article at a time. If you enjoyed this newsletter, you will love the book Temperature, Creativity in the Age of AI, debuted at #1 as a new release in human-computer interaction and now available on Amazon.com. You can join one of our executive boot camps with our May cohorts. The next Level 1 cohort kicks off on Monday, April 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Level 2 on Wednesday, May 8th, 5 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. This is the last week to register. You can bring our 10-hour corporate training program to your company, empowering your employees to identify their own problems, strategize, and build their own solutions as you organically incubate and grow enterprise-level applications. And lastly, I'm going on tour. Our team is planning our 5-city book tour: DC, Boston, LA, Chicago, Miami, and San Francisco. And we'd love to visit you for a reading, workshop, or a creative jam session. Media bookings and inquiries can be sent to Marnie at the Salop Group. Thank you for listening to Humans of AI, where every week I muse about the creative, responsible, and strategic use of AI in business.